This is Viusasa News.
Well, hello there and welcome to Viusasa's The Fourth Estate. My name is Waihiga Mwaura and this is a show where those who report the news discuss how the news was reported. I'm glad to have Olive Burrows, senior reporter and producer Capital FM, joining us today on the program. Karibu.
Happy to be here.
And John-Allan Namu, investigative journalist and CEO Africa Uncensored. Welcome to the program as well.
Thank you, Waihiga. Good.
I'll start with you, Olive. Kenyans go to the polls on Thursday.
Yes.
This is after that Supreme Court verdict that saw the annulment of the August 8th presidential poll. If you look at how the media covered the Supreme Court verdict and all other cases that have happened after that, which are so too many to count, do you think Kenyans understand, one, why the election was annulled, and secondly, what needs to be done differently this time around from how media covered the whole process?
Do I think people understood the reasons for the annulment?
Exactly.
I don't think that came out too clearly. I think probably a lot of people relied on what the politicians told them thereafter. But you have to understand that what they gave was very brief, and the full judgment came out, I think, on September 21st. So what Maraga said was that an election is a process; it's not an event. But I will say I wasn't caught when the verdict was read out, and it came as a surprise to me. Personally, I remember I was updating the office and my hands were shaking like I can't believe this just happened, because everybody who'd asked me, which way do you think the court decision will go, I didn't think the judiciary would open itself to that many petitions, because once you annul the presidential, then all the other elections,
You open the floodgates.
Yes, come into question. So I think it came as a surprise. I was reading an AFP story, and I remember they were saying unexpected. That was the word a lot of people used. I don't know.
No, it's true. No,
John,
it's completely,
same question to you.
It's completely the same. A lot of people were surprised by it. A lot of people did not think that, first of all, I mean, given the form book in African elections, that the judiciary would go against what would be perceived as, an executive under, having gained the momentum of a second victory. But I think for me, it wasn't so surprising in that we had already started to look into the election and we had been looking at some of the forms. So from the qualitative point of view, we weren't really surprised because we found a lot of the things that had been...
As African Uncensored.
Exactly. We found a lot of the things that the Supreme Court eventually ruled were irregular and spoke to the quality of the election. But, I mean, everybody has been surprised by this thing. I mean, who hasn't? It's, the fourth in the world, right? So,
yes.
Yeah, it was...
But in terms of the reporting, how the media covered it, legal knowledge and understanding, understanding of the Constitution, the Elections Act, the IEBC Act, are you satisfied that Kenyan media did justice to the citizens of Kenya in terms of how they reported? Your faces seem to answer, give a better answer than you expect.
I think we could have done more. There was a lot of, even from boomers, there was a lot of, the conversation was around the forms, the status of the forms. I remember before Chebukati announced the results that evening, in the afternoon Orengo had said, not all the forms are here. There was an issue around the forms, which again came out when the Supreme Court registrar submitted or presented her report to the court. And then you had Justice Njoki Ndungu then coming out and saying, a lot of what she raised actually is non-existent, because I went through the forms. I think we could have delved a bit more into
as media.
into that aspect of things. In terms of the also still with the forms, I think we could have pushed a bit harder. I tried taking Chiloba to task on the Form 34Bs because I was under the assumption that Al Ghurair was going to print all the result forms. But then now you hear about the Excel sheets.
Yes.
So I understand that perhaps there was a gap of information or knowledge on that front.
I shortly will be asking you if that gap has been filled with an election coming up in 3 days from where you stand. But John, you now have the unique perspective of you've worked in quote-unquote what some would say is mainstream media, but now you're at a place where you can actually sit and watch and see what's happening in a space you used to actively play in.
Yeah.
Were you impressed?
No. I wasn't. No, I wasn't.
You were not?
No, because to be honest, we had 5 years to be able to prepare ourselves, to be able to learn the lessons that we did from 2013. Particularly because I did a lot of reporting around the election in 2013. I sort of knew what the problems were. And I was kind of surprised that, like, even in terms of reporting around the Form 34A, the structure of the form, what it is, and the Maina Kiai ruling, there really wasn't that much. If you think about it, the lead up to the election. So I felt that the media did not do a good job. in terms of being able to report those facts and to explain to people just why the Form 34 is such an important form anyhow. I mean, that came out later, but it for me was underwhelming.
Oh, underwhelming.
Yeah.
Immediately after that verdict that was read by the Supreme Court, protests broke out in parts of the country. Yet those protests were not covered by mainstream media until the next day, Saturday, the 2nd of September, I believe. Did the media take its role of self-censorship too zealously from where you sit? Or was it an excuse that in 2007, media covered protests, which led to more protests, and so this time around, media were trying to be careful?
Yeah, I think I'm convinced there's a lot of self-censorship. I sit in a newsroom and, news would come and then you'd be told, of a shooting or something like that, and you'd be told, ignore. Like it'll... it'll
laughing over a very serious matter.
Yeah, I know, because I can't cry. It'll inflame tensions. So I think we took it a bit too far. I think we have.
What was the worst thing that would
It was
have
not
happened?
a surprise that we self-censored, and I think we have been.
What was the worst thing that would have
Since
happened if
2007,
on Friday,
2008?
as soon as the Supreme Court judgment was read, we went live in different locations and showed exactly what's happening?
I don't think, maybe not necessarily going. Okay, it's a fine line. It's a fine line, because then again, you don't want to create panic or present a picture that's not necessarily accurate. So I think you need to be careful how you go about it.
But then
I don't think we should have.
We then showed those pictures. Were we not so? If you're a foreigner flying into Kenya one day, no protest, and the next day suddenly protest.
Let me leave it at it. It's a fine
leave
line.
it at that. Let me come to you,
But
John.
I do agree that we self-censored quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-censorship has been around since probably the 2013 election. After 2007, the people who covered there will know why. But that's no justification for what happened this time around. There was violence even before the announcement of the result in this election, which was surprising that there was nobody in the wall-to-wall 24-hour coverage that we saw. There wasn't even like a scanner at the bottom of the screen saying that there are things that are happening. And I think that's when you start to think about the media's abdication of its role. You see, there's a fine line, and I completely agree with you, Olive, that there's a fine line between causing panic and reporting the facts. But journalists must always err on the side of reporting the facts first. We owe our duty to the truth first. You understand? And
no matter what effect the facts may have on a population.
Of course, those considerations will be made in the field, right? Of course, you'll think, what is the impact of what I'm saying? But if what you're saying is true, and it is having real-world impact on the people around you, do you not owe it to those people to be able to report those facts?
As an investigative journalist, do you feel that self-censorship by media has affected the growth of investigative journalism in Kenya?
That's why I'm in my own outfit. I think just to give
If I can piggyback on that, there's been a lot of controversy as to what the death toll was, right? Was it 33?
Yes,
Was
exactly.
it 37? You have
Or 4.
this, as the police say. But where was the media? Because you have reporters covering different areas. So has anybody verified what the actual figures are? Because we've had a lot of, speculation and rumors. And it's sort of the same thing people are asking about. Where was the media at the constituency tallying center level? We were all at Bomas and we are all relying on the big screens. But where was the media? So
on that note,
would be my
in fact,
question.
all media houses boasted before the election that they had representatives in 290 constituencies, yet results from those representatives never seem to have seen the light of day. Again, could that be part of what you're alluding to?
But I think the plans in place between media and IEBC to make sure that those constituency tallying centers are covered. But it's something even the EU Observer Mission brought up in their report, as well as the whole self-censorship thing. Okay.
Yeah. I want to move on. Do you have a closing comment on that?
No, I think we should just
leave it at that. Nasalid, before we get into murky territory, Raila Odinga recently announced that he has withdrawn from the presidential race, the October 26th one to be specific. Yet for some reason, it doesn't look like the media believes him. Why I say this is because all artwork still shows Uhuru versus Raila. All commentary, any discussion is Uhuru, Raila in this debate. Who is fooling who? Or have we not understood that Raila has said he's withdrawing, he will not be in this election? How are we covering that particular part of the election?
I'll let you go first on that.
All right. I think I'm thinking about it this way. The Raila Uhuru contest and the NASA Jubilee contest transcends the election in that it's not really about the contest. And I think maybe that's why in the back of the minds of people who are managing media today, it's still a contest between Raila and Uhuru. Because no matter what the result of the election, no matter whether we have an election or not, there still will be those two antagonistic forces that are playing things out in the public space. In terms of the election itself, I mean, I can't read the mind of Raila. I can't read the mind of Uhuru. But insofar as we do not have evidence that Raila is not withdrawing, then we should just take him at his word. You understand? And
he signed a form, and
exactly.
he's been very clear that
whether or not he
hasn't signed the form.
Yeah,
not 24A, but he's written his own letter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, he's made his intentions very
made
clear
it
that
exactly.
he's not going to be part of the election. So unless we're saying that he's saying it, but he's not really saying it, that's really just going into the very murky waters of speculation and rumor mongering, which I don't think as media we should do. There are facts. We should report the facts. Until we have different facts, then you keep to those ones. Not to say that, oh, there could be, because that also leaves it open to interpretation in the minds of the public.
Which is a situation we might be in, Olive.
But he kind of fostered that speculation when he met Chebukati last week.
Yes.
And he talked about
Friday
if there
or Thursday?
on Thursday, I think, if there are reforms and this consultation,
Then
I
he
would
might
reconsider
reconsider.
my position. But as I'll agree with John in that it's still a contest mainly between those two political figures, which is Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. But anyway, until Raila tells us otherwise that he's reconsidered, I, like you said, we should take him at his word.
We should take him at his word. Even as we wrap up this discussion, what are the key mistakes that media made in the run-up to the August 8th poll, run-up on the day after that, and are we closer to rectifying them with an election in 3 days? I guess I'll start with you now, because
Yeah,
you threw it to John last time.
Well, definitely we'll need a presence at the constituency tallying center level. Of course, if Raila Odinga stays true to his word and remains out of the contest, we'll definitely be looking at that interaction between those who choose to vote and those who choose
Not
to abstain. I think perhaps we'll be a little more skeptical this time round in terms of the preparations. I think last time we were, I don't know, too overconfident that the IBC systems would work, especially the electronic transmission of results. So I think we relied on information directly from them a lot. So I think this time round we'll have our eyes peeled on the ground.
Okay, John?
I think, no, Olive, you're completely right. I think those are the things that need to happen. And I think that the media will pay more attention to the actual race, the state of the race, the forms, the mechanical, technical aspects of the race. For me, what is deeply unsatisfying is that there are many, many deeper questions that we should have been asking, like all along this contest, about the election, about the system that we are in, about even the tribal dynamic that we all refuse to confront in our coverage. You know, like we say people from Western Kenya when we really mean Luo, Luya, that kind of access. You know, the Jubilee's support base when we really mean Kikuyu, Kalenjin. There is a way to have these discussions by naming them without making it seem like you're sort of like pandering to some sort of tribal dynamic. But that's what we need. We need to be able to discuss things openly, honestly, and have the deeper and further reaching discussions that we need in the media space for things to start moving.
Even though a percentage of your viewers might switch off once you get, they'll be offended, they'll be like, I can't watch this channel.
But what sensibilities are you offending if you're really talking about the facts as they are? You understand? What sensibilities are you offending if you're really telling people that this is really the situation? If you look at the numbers, there is a certain way that things are being represented that shows you that this still largely is an election that is dominated by tribal mobilization, right? And if we are honest about those things and start to give them the kind of space and breadth that they deserve, then maybe we might be able to get over this monkey on our back that we can't say what we really want to say when we need to say it, and make tribe a less important part of our electoral cycle going forward, because as long as it is part of it, We will have this discussion, mark my words, in 2021, 2022.
So if the Supreme Court will be judged based on how it adhered to the law, media will be judged based on how it adhered to the facts, because
Exactly.
you keep bringing up the facts. Finally, does media owe Kenyans an apology for how it covered the August 8th poll, before, during, after? You don't have to answer.
Olive,
You don't have to answer.
Yes, to some extent, we do.
To some extent. Okay.
Publish and be damned, but apologize when you are damned, especially when you're wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
On that note, that's how we wrap up the Fourth Estate on View. Sasa, thank you so much, Olive Burrows, john-allan Namu, for weighing in on this debate. You're saying things that other people cannot say because you're in a space with access to a lot more information than the average Kenyan. Thank you so much for making it clear. My name is Waihiga Mwaura. Keep it, View Sasa.
This is View Sasa News.